I think a lot of people hear one no and it destroys their whole world. You're too worried about the judgment of other people. I could get a million no's. At this point, I'm not stopping.
I wonder if that's a generational thing too, because like when we were growing up, like it was like everyone's like, dude, you suck. Like that's just, I come from a generation where it's like nobody's rooting for you. You got a couple, you got like your little tribe of people and you're literally uphill. And if something goes right, you're like, this must be my lucky day. Today on Love's Music, I speak with Anthony Church. Anthony Church is a producer from Northern Ohio. He's also a content creator who specializes in instrumental music, a lo-fi hip-hop sound that is relaxing as much as it is interesting. His album, Leaves and Soil, is an absolute masterpiece. That's how I discovered him, and I had to have him on the show. So up next, all the way from Northern Ohio, Anthony Church. Anthony Church, my brother from Ohio, man. Thanks for making time to join us on Love's Music.
Hey, Julian, thanks for reaching back out, getting in touch with me, and thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Pleasure, man. Let me tell you, your music, probably some of the most unique content that I've reviewed in terms of interviewing guests. To the average casual hip hop fan or music lover, they would hear a producer of like hip hop music or lo-fi and be like, oh, this guy makes beats. You do so much more than that. You like paint with sounds. You put together these really intricate projects that are they instrumental? Yes. But they're like themed, cohesive songs all on like one project. Not to mention your output is crazy. I think you had 3 albums in the last year.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is crazy. The first thing I want to talk about is Leaves and Soil. I mean, like I said, it's a cohesive project. Is it mellow? Yes. But it like weaves in and out of like emotional tones. Some things are more lighthearted. Some of the beats are like a little bit heavier. Great listening music for like at work, like while I'm doing, like I'm sending out emails and I'm just like captivated by this project.
Mm-hmm.
What headspace were you in when you created Leaves and Soil?
Yeah. So all of the music was done in 2023. All the music on there is about 2 years old at this point. And I ended up coming up with the project concept, mostly based around just a fall themed album. I knew that lo-fi and fall music was kind of correlated. And I told myself, I was like, I kind of want to tackle some type of fall related thing. And I knew like when I came up with the concept, it wasn't going to be out for a while. So I kind of researched more about, what are some topics that haven't really been discussed in like a fall theme project? And I was looking up like the cycles of like nature cycles and life cycles. And a big thing that I discovered is when leaves fall to the ground, they decompose, they enrich the soil, and then from the soil, new life is created from that. So it's kind of like it's a cool thing that happens in nature, but to me, it's kind of representative of just life in general, like the patterns of life and things like that. So I was like, why don't I get like 10 tracks together that kind of represent that whole vibe and that whole mellow type of energy, but it also has like a deeper meaning to the overall concept of the project. So I ended up getting those beats. I think a lot of them were just made at separate times and I compiled them together, which is what I do with a lot of projects. But I think the headspace I was in was just let's create something that's definitely more lo-fi and definitely something that is more that traditional route. Because I've done instrumental projects that have a lot more hip hop to them and a lot more upbeat stuff to them. And I felt like this one was more like, let's keep it melodic, let's keep it down tempo to mid tempo, and let's really like capture that fall type of energy. So I made sure to put it out. We did the early release in October and then the actual release in November. So I wanted to put it out, at the fall season. But I promoted it for 5 or 6 months total, and we're still doing a little bit of back end promotion on it as well. But I'd say that's the headspace. It wasn't really too much of a crazy concept or anything like that, but it was just how do I capture that energy of the fall season? And I know that the fall is just correlated with, let's put on those mellow beats. Let's just listen to those and sit outside and watch the leaves fall or watch a sunset or whatever. And like you said about, it's music to kind of just work to or do whatever to. That's exactly the point. It's like it's not really meant to like be crazy in your face. It's more of like background music for living. So that's really what that project and a lot of the projects I've been putting together have been all about so far.
I like that too. So I probably read a little too far into it. Like I thought it was like a metaphor for growth, and that's how I perceived it. But I think with lo-fi music, it's part of it's up to interpretation, kind of like jazz or kind classical, you know,
Yeah.
like when you don't have a spoken narrative over the music, part of it is left to interpretation. But now that I'm hearing you explain it, it makes so much sense. It's the kind of you put on hot cup of coffee, all the leaves are like gold and yellow and
Mhm.
red, you know, and then you just kind of mellow out.
Yeah.
Really, really good project, man.
I appreciate that.
Give me an idea of like your toolkit, man. Are you playing instruments live? Are you using samples? Are you working with other producers? Is it all you? Can you kind of let me get a peek behind the curtain at the process?
Yeah, for sure. So, like my solo projects, those are mostly just me involved. I don't play any instruments. I used to play guitar when I was younger, but I gave that up. I only did guitar lessons for probably, I don't know, 8 or 9 months. And then because I was a kid, I wanted to go play sports. I was like, I don't have time to play an instrument. So I put that away. But I use FL Studio, which is a program that you can make beats on, instrumentals on. And I do mostly sample based stuff. Anytime that I work with a musician, though, which has been a lot more in the last few years here. I bring them in to kind of play over what I already did. So I usually just make, beats using sample based production skills. And then what I usually do is start with melody and then kind of build from there. So I usually get some type of main melody, whether it's piano or guitar or something like that. And then once I have that basis, then I can kind of build around that and create something from there. So I am working with a lot more people now, especially this year. Not on the solo like Leaves and Soil. That, like I said, that was all me. Anytime I put out one of those solo projects, I make sure that it's usually all me. And if there's any going to be ever features on it, I'll make sure people know that, like other contributors. But as far as the collabs I've done, like one of the instrumentalists I work with, his name is Strappa. His real name's Tim, but his artist name is Strappa, and he's a great saxophonist. So I'm a big fan of the saxophone. I don't know how to play, so I'm like, let me go, find somebody that's really good. And he is someone that is part of the lo-fi community, and he puts out a lot of instrumentals on his own and collaborates with a lot of people. So him and I, we actually collaborated on 5 different tracks over the course of the year, and they've all come out at this point with different labels. Another producer named Cessflow, I believe he's from Chile, is where he's from, but we've been working on a lot of music. We've done a lot of collaborations this year, and we're actually working on a full album that just started this week. So that's going to be something I'm
Sweet.
looking forward to doing. And then just a lot of other people too. My buddy Jalen Williams from South Carolina, we did an instrumental EP. So just trying to work more
Nice.
with people while still doing my own thing has really been something that I've been able to do a lot in 2025. So hoping to keep that going moving forward.
Okay. So how closely correlated to your personal life is the actual music? Like, are you detached where you sit down and you're like, I have this melody, I'm working on it? Are you inspired by how you feel at the moment? Is it more maybe nostalgic? Are you inspired by things that have happened to you in the past? All the
Yeah.
above? None of the above?
I definitely say it's all of the above because, I feel like I try to make like what I create is definitely tied into how I'm feeling during that point in time. Great example would be the last like 5 or 6 months here. I made a ton of music. A lot of it's very emotional sounding stuff. I had my granddad pass away this past summer and I
Oh,
went through a
condolences.
breakup. So I appreciate that. And, I've been dealing with a lot of different things in actual life. And I've been trying to correlate those to the creative side as well. So I could definitely say like that's a great example of like using how I feel in that type of way. Because for me, being able to sit down and make something that could probably help somebody else that's feeling the way that I feel, that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? So I feel like a lot of the production I've done, especially in these last few months, has been very much based on how I feel. And that's just, I think what I try to do in general is just try to capture some type of emotion. And
Mhm.
then, I sit down and kind of evaluate what I just made. And then if I feel like it is up to quality and I feel like, yeah, this is making me feel something, chances are it's going to make someone else out there feel something as well. And then that's the point where I decide, okay, I'm going to put this out. I'm either going to send this to someone to do a verse on, or maybe I'll just put it out as an instrumental. And like you said at the top of the show, you could put out these instrumentals and they could still leave an impact even with no words. So I have to make sure that that is being done every time. Is this actually going to leave an impact if nothing is being said? If I just hear this music, is it going to actually make me feel something happy, sad, somewhere in between? As long as it captures some type of real emotion, then I think you're doing your job. If it doesn't make you feel anything, then it's like, well, what are we doing here? It
Right.
kind of defeats the purpose. So, yeah, I think in general, how I feel is directly tied into the music. And because music is such a big part of my life as a fan and as a creative, then yeah, it has to be a direct representation of, me and who I am. And that's a big reason why I don't have a moniker. I just use my name because I always just want to show my true self and be myself in the music. I don't want to be somebody else. I think a lot of people have a stage name because they want to try to portray another person through the music. And for me, that's just not how it is. It's like I've always wanted to just show people like who I am and how I'm feeling and just be honest and genuine and transparent through what I'm putting out.
So with regards to Anthony Church, the brand, and you talk about wanting to make an impact, which is top priority. I mean, that's why we do music. Can you pinpoint maybe a specific feeling that you want somebody who encounters your music to walk away with? Like, how do you want someone to feel who engages with either your content, your albums?
I guess at the end of the day, you just want somebody to feel inspired. I mean, that's a big one because that's how, the art that I've consumed over the years from people has made me feel as inspired. And that's the reason I wanted to become an artist to begin with, is because you feel inspired, you feel motivated to go change somebody else's life. So hopefully, I'm doing that. And I've received messages before from people that say, not only great work, but like, wow, this really made me think about this time of life, or this
Mm.
really made me reflect on this. And now, because of that, I want to do better in this area of life or something like that. So I guess that's really just the goal at the end of the day, is just leave people feeling inspired or motivated, or just, like I said before, just leave them feeling any type of real emotion that will make them kind of act on something else or some type of
Mm.
feeling. And that's really what it's all about at the end of the day. We could have all the success in the world and do all the things we want to set out to do, but I think the biggest thing and the reason why we do this is because we want to help other people. And music is obviously a huge way to do that, and a very important way that we can do that as creatives.
Can you shine a light perhaps on some of the artists who have maybe inspired and motivated you in the past?
Yeah, so it's funny because I feel like, the people I was listening to in high school and even middle school, I don't really listen to them a ton nowadays because I feel like I've expanded my palette
Mhm.
based on, just getting older and getting more mature. Honestly, I feel like I listen to a lot more mature stuff now than I did when I was 17 or 18. I'm almost 30 now. I'm 28 years old now. So it's like I've lived, I've grown, and what I consume kind of reflects that a lot. As far as producers go, though, people that made me want to start producing, people like Timbaland, obviously, huge name, someone that, has done a lot of great things. Do I
On the
support what
Mount
he's
Rushmore of hip hop producers, for sure.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure, for sure. And obviously he's been involved in some questionable things with the whole AI thing recently, which is tough. But as far as like when I was younger and looking at, his track record and what he had done, huge influence when I was younger. Even people like Kanye West, like obviously
Sure.
Kanye, controversial, but someone that has influenced
Can't
me in
deny
the
his talent.
past. Yeah, for
Undeniable.
sure. And then Hit Boy is another big one who he's worked with a lot of different artists, and that was someone that I really studied throughout high school from like 2012 to 2016. I actually remember senior year of high school, I showed the class, my English class, I showed them a video of Hit Boy making a beat. It was like a Beyonce and Nicki Minaj beat. And I showed that in the class, and I was like, "Yeah, this is what I want to do. I want to do stuff like that for artists one day." And nobody really got it at all. They were like, "What is this?" Like, I don't understand what this is. But by then, I kind of made up my mind. I was like, "Yeah, I'm definitely gonna like produce, and this is what I want to do. I want to make music for people." And yeah, that's just a few people on the production side that definitely have inspired me, and inspired me when I was younger for sure, and kind of got the wheels turning to say, yeah, this is something I want to pursue, and go for it.
Yeah. So, what part of the process, in terms of like producing beats and packaging it into cohesive projects and promoting it, what part of that process gives you the most trouble?
Definitely on the promotion side of things, kind of figuring out like, because I feel like the fun part is always making it, right, like creating the art, coming up with the concepts, even doing like the track list and things like that. I feel like once you get to that point of having to promote it, it's like you got to figure out the target audience, You got to figure out what kind of platforms are you going to focus on. And that's what I've been learning a lot through doing these solo projects too, because I've usually been starting out where I'm focusing on one specific platform, whether it's a streaming platform or direct to consumer or something like that. So I'm like, I got to create some type of campaign around that whole energy to start with, and then eventually push it everywhere else.
Mm.
I think it's definitely just coming up with different ways to reach the audience and even just form the audience. Because I would consider myself still in the phase of building my audience. I don't think I'm anywhere close to where I want to be as far as like building an audience, but it's like that slow and steady journey of being able to do that. But I think for me that's kind of the most difficult part, and it's the part that you try to study what other artists are doing to an extent, and then you kind of ask yourself, okay, what do I want to do? Not only for this project, but what do I want to do moving forward? And if you learn things from one rollout and things work, then you can kind of apply them to the next one. But if things don't work, maybe you have to sit down and reevaluate and then say, okay, next time, maybe for this email campaign or this vinyl rollout or whatever we're doing, we're going to kind of reevaluate how we go about it. So I kind of learn on the fly and just apply what I've learned to what I do in the future. So yeah, I think it's just the marketing and kind of trying to pinpoint, where you're going to take things with that side of things.
I know the one thing that you do as just somebody who, as a recent observer of your work, is your album art coincides with the content exceptionally well. If you look at the title, then you look at the album art, then you listen to the music, it's like this well orchestrated, deliberate package with a bow on it that you're just handing somebody and you're like, here, sit with that for 50 minutes,
Yeah.
And it's really good. So as a word of encouragement, keep whatever you're doing in terms of like album art and music and how that all goes together. You really package your stuff exceptionally well.
I
Other
appreciate
than
that.
that, what is something that you believe you do exceptionally well? Like one of
I
your
think,
strengths, your biggest strength, I should say.
yeah, I think my biggest strength is just consistency. And that's kind of it's what I've learned from the people that are successful at doing what I'm trying to do. And it's just what I've heard a lot of them say got them through the highs and the lows. No matter what point they were at in their career, they just kept going. It wasn't really about, always scaling at the highest level or always having the most amount of fans or anything like that. It was just like they just kept showing up even when things kind of looked bleak or they kind of looked like they weren't moving in the right direction. They just kept showing up on a consistent basis. And I think when you show up and you're there every single day in some type of way, people get familiar with you, whether they've heard anything you've done or not. They're eventually going to keep seeing you show up and they're going to be like, I've seen this person show up every day for, 2 3 years. Let me check out their stuff because I've seen them so many times. And for me, it's like trying to figure out different ways to show up, whether it's social media or the music itself or any type of YouTube content I've been trying to do or anything like that, or even just supporting other artists, whether it's doing like Spotify playlists or just reposting other people's work and telling my followers to go check it out. Like that's a big thing that I always love to do because I always think, what would that have meant to me when I was starting out for
Yeah.
someone to just share my work without me asking them to share it? That does a lot for people and people will remember that type of thing. It's obviously the right thing to do. And then they'll remember that, it's something that goes a long way. So I think that's what it is for me is just the consistency. And I've got a lot of compliments on, being able to do that through those different avenues. And I definitely aim to keep doing that moving forward.
That's great advice. That's actually one of the ways I started doing the podcast. When I first got on Threads, I was actually promoting a book, and then I started hearing all these artists, and I would go on, and instead of just being like, "Hey, that's fire," "Hey, that's hot," like I would just leave like a little bit more detailed feedback, and my community just started going like this, just because artists were so taken aback, like, "Oh my god, he listened to it. He actually went and listened to the album."
Yeah. It's
So
like taking that next step of engaging with the person instead of just, like you said, leaving the emojis or just
yeah,
liking because you're trying to get engagement on your post, which I
right.
see a lot of people do. But yeah, it's just showing that you genuinely actually care. And that goes a long way. So
Yeah, man. So what would success look like for you in both the short term and the long term? Say 3 months and then 3 years.
yeah. So I guess 3 months would just be continue putting out these projects that I'm doing. I already have some things lined up for the beginning of the year, and then I'm going to be starting the rollout for my next instrumental album. which is going to be coming out next summer. So I already have that kind of lined up. So I guess just continue to see, growth in that area of listenership and things like that. 3 years, I just want to be able to keep doing this and just hopefully see the growth from where I am now. Hopefully more actual fans, more followers, things like that. And hopefully my music is just making more of an impact. And I'll have a lot more projects out by then,
Yeah.
hopefully as well. Because I'm already planning, into 2027 and beyond at this point. So it's
Yeah.
like I got a lot of things lined up. There's a lot of different people that I hope to meet and connect with by then as well. So, it's really just if you're able to look back even from the year and say, what have I done this year compared to the year before? As long as you see that steady growth, you're doing the right thing. So that's really the big goal is just steady growth and just see where it's at. But I just want to keep doing it as long as possible. Even if I'm never making like a full-time living on this stuff, it is what it is. If I can keep
Yeah.
doing it every day to some extent and have it involved in my life, that's really the goal for me. Like I talked about leaving an impact on other people, that's all I could really ask for.
Well, I know with this kind of music, it's hard, like especially like a casual listener. It's like, well, what does success look like for you as a lo-fi producer? Obviously, there's not really a precedent for like a huge stadium tour or
Mhm.
you know, and I guess the end game would be maybe like a huge collab album with like a major artist. Do you have a dream collab in mind? That you would be like, if I do, I would love to do a whole album for fill in the blank.
Yeah. See, I feel like when I was younger, I probably would have had an answer to that because that's how you start out. You're wanting to work with the big artists, you're wanting to
Yeah.
produce for all these people, and then you realize it's like the bigger artists already have their people.
Yeah.
You got to find the people that are starting where you're at on your level and build with them and build it from the ground up. And that's how you both become, big yourselves in your own way. So, I don't really have a dream collab. I really just say as long as we both have the same type of energy and the same type of goal, that's the people I like to work with. And that's something I'm actively doing now is actually producing more albums for individual artists and doing like a full project, whether it's an EP or an album. But I try to make sure we're on the same page about our goals. You try to have that conversation beforehand about what do we want out of this album and what's kind of the end goal and do we kind of have similar visions on life and kind of like takes on our own journeys? And then how can we kind of blend the sounds together?
Yeah.
And my big challenge recently has been let's try to work with artists that might not always rap or sing on the type of production that I do. Let me see if I can bring somebody that does more upbeat music or maybe even trap or something like that and bring them to like a more emotional place, get something out of them
Yeah.
so that's been a big goal recently, and I think a lot of the projects that I'm finalizing now that people will hear in the next year or so, you'll definitely hear that has kind of come to fruition, which is really cool. And it's people that I never had connections with before. So people that I've been connecting with within the last few months, and we've been building things up so quickly. And I'm even working on a compilation album right now that has a lot of artists on it. And I feel the same way about that project too, because I feel like I got some people on there that don't really do the type of music that this project is about. And I got them to really open up based on concept of the album and just based on the overall vibe and tone of it, which I think is super exciting. And I think it shows my growth as, a creative, as a music maker. And it just gets me excited for what's to come in the future as well. So yeah.
Absolutely. Now, what happens if an artist comes to you and your visions just don't align? Like I've had people reach out and they'll be like, "Hey man, can I come do your show?" If there was more minutes in a day, I'd interview everybody. But every
Yeah.
once in a while something happens and I'm like, either A, the music is, you can just tell they're not really an established artist yet, or you go on their page and like they have something that doesn't really kind of just like rubs me the wrong way. And I was like, I just don't think our energy will match, you know?
Yeah.
What happens if someone comes to you and they're like, "Yeah, I want to do a project with you," and you feel like their vision doesn't align with yours? Or has
Yeah.
that never happened?
No, see, I don't know if that's ever happened per se as far as like a specific instance, but I know that if it did ever happen, I would explain it to them kind of in that way where it's like, I respect what you're doing. That's no like shade or slight to what you're doing. It just isn't going to align with what I'm doing. And a lot of the times it's not even that it won't align ever. It's just it's not aligning now. So like 5 years down the line, you might reconnect with that person and it might align. You never know. So I always try to keep that in mind. Even if I reach out to somebody else and they tell me the same thing, they say, I'm a little booked up right now, or I don't really have time to commit to do this, but maybe down the line we can make it happen. So you just kind of put a pin in it and say, we'll see what we can do down the future. In the future, it's not really like you can't look at everything as super time sensitive because there's always other projects to work on as well. So that's kind of
Mm.
how I've been looking at it recently. And there's just so many artists and possibilities of people that you can work with. It's like I don't always have to work with everybody all at once. I can kind of pick and choose and focus my energies on the places that need it at that time, and then from there you move on to the next person.
You said so much there that's important. I think that as artists, especially artists that are kind of like nearing like that second stage of their career, like we're not kids anymore, clearly, there's always a sense of like time's running out. I have to get this done. Time's running out. I got to get, I got to get the next thing done or whatever, And I think even the style of music you do, the way you work, your workflow, your process, some of the things you just said right now is an exercise in restraint. You look at the quality of your music and like you could do, I think, if I may, you could probably do anything you want. If I came in and I was like, yo, let me get like a boom bap joint, like a 50 Cent joint. Let me get a Timberlake joint with like a bunch of synthesizers. I'm like totally aging myself. I'm naming artists from like 20 years ago. I'm like, let me get a 21 Savage joint. I think you can make those beats all the time. But I think the lane that you stay in and exercising that restraint where you have this very specific style is going to take you so much further than being like trying to cram this artist into this and just trying to like flood the streets with like all this different stuff.
Yeah, I feel that way a lot. And that's been a big emphasis the last year or so, especially is being able to kind of hone in on what is my sound and what do I want to do. I'm really starting to peel back like the way I approach things too. And that's a big reason why I'm doing all these projects, solo projects, is because I want to build these different worlds out. And then when I do work with an artist, it's like I kind of more so want to bring them into my world than the opposite way around, which is like an interesting challenge for me. And I think that helps. That's going to help me get better as a producer overall. But all the producers that I'm a fan of, that's what they're doing. And that's, kind of who I study to be like, well, that's kind of how you do it instead of just sitting around waiting for placements from artists and, they pick beats and then they never rap on them for 2 years. And that's like, well, what am I doing? I'm just wasting all these beats when I could be using these to put them out on my own and have them actually do something. I think it's like I'll always want to produce for other people and do the placement route because that's, it's still important to do that, but it's not going to be what I build my foundation on. It's not going to be what I make my main bread and butter. I want to be able to build my own thing out and build my own brand up and my own sound and have people associate my name with that quality of music. So I'd say that's really just the goal from, like I said, the last like year and a half here since I started this journey of being able to do these solo projects more. So
something else too that you talked about, which I think is so important, which I think a lot of people feel that it's underrated. Like everybody kind of wants like that microwave career. Hey, I've been doing music for 9 months. I want to pop. I'm trying to make one viral video and then just get out of here. But you kind of focused on consistency. What are some of the habits that you adhere to on like a daily basis or often that helps you just stay focused on the main thing and have a good space about, just playing that long game?
Firstly would be scheduling out content, scheduling out the music. Like I said earlier, I'm planning already 2027 stuff. That's where I'm at right now. We're at the end of 2025 while we're recording this, but I'm planning stuff from 2 years ahead at this point. I got most of 2026 pretty well mapped out. Not every single thing, but the majority of it, especially on social media. Planning ahead is a big thing because it allows you to not have to cram last minute. I think everybody waits till the last minute and then they start to panic. And then they're like, oh, I got to post something tomorrow. What am I going to post? I don't know what to post. It's like plan it out months in advance. Then you already know what you're going to post. Even if you have to plan it out a week in advance, you're giving yourself the buffer to be able to make the content and then put it out the way that you want to put it out. Everybody I don't know, not everybody, but a lot of people just don't plan for things like that. Even the music releases, it's like they drop it a random day and then they have no plan for it. They have no pre-release strategy or post-release strategy. They're just throwing things out there with no plan or anything behind it. And as far as like the creation side of things, I aim to create at least one big idea a day, whether it's music or social media content or anything like that. If I can end the day with saying I got this one thing accomplished today, even if it was such a little minute detail or idea, then it's like, okay, I'm making progress. Each day is a little bit of progress towards those goals. And then I think forming more short term goals can help kind of build toward the long term goals as well. Instead of just having one huge mammoth goal that you're trying to put everything on and stack all your chips on, have some smaller goals as well, because those are kind of like benchmarks toward getting to the bigger goals, and they help you kind of keep track of your progress. And I think I said earlier as well about, if you can sit down at the end of the year and say, I made so much more progress this year than I did last year, well, then there you go. You already know you're doing the right thing and you're heading in the right direction. And then I'd say lastly, just stop looking at other people on social media and comparing yourself to what they're doing, because a big, huge problem is that everybody tries to compare themselves to, what their favorite artist is doing or what this influencer is doing. And it's like, that's not healthy. You're on your own path, your own journey. You have to figure out what you want and how you're going to get there. And you can be inspired by other people for sure. But if you're comparing yourself to other people and you think everything's going to play out like it did for them, it's not going to happen. You got to figure out how to put in the work on your own and build up a work ethic, because their work ethic is not your work ethic. You got to figure out how to build that on your own, and do these things on your own. And that's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. So, and I have to
Sure.
remind myself of that every day. I've done a lot of things, but I could give up tomorrow and then it would all be gone. I have to continue every single day to put
Well,
that work in. So I'd say in kind of, embodying all those different things kind of helps me be able to show up every single day and put it in, and then just love it, have an actual love for it. If you don't love any of this stuff, none of it means anything. You're just doing it. If you're just doing it to kind of keep up with the next person or impress somebody, it's not going to last because you don't have your heart in what you're doing. You actually have to have some heart in what you're actually doing, and then it will be a lot easier to do it at the end of the day.
I think loving it is important. And I didn't really understand what that meant until I guess I was a little bit older, right? Because you hear these stories and you don't really understand the proportionate amount of struggle versus success, right? Like you have to really, really love playing music to sleep in vans, play for empty rooms, get booed off stages, replace band members, fight with band members, you have to like almost be in love with the process,
Yeah.
you know? Because when it happens, it kind of happens out of nowhere. You're like running a race with no
Mhm.
finish line in sight.
Yeah.
That's what music is. I'm making things. Maybe I'll blow up in a week. Maybe I'll blow up in a decade. But I love it so much that I have to
Yeah.
keep going.
For sure.
And I didn't really understand that until I was
Yeah.
way
I
older.
think even
You know,
that plays into
yeah,
rejection too, because how many times will you get told no? You send your music to someone,
sure.
hey, could I get on this blog? They tell you no, it's not up to quality. You want to get on this playlist? Hey, could I get on this playlist? No, it's not good enough. You're going to be told that over and over and over. I'm still getting told that every single day. You know what I mean? It's like you have to build up that thick skin too to be like, well, one no or two no's or three no's isn't going to stop me because I just love what I'm doing. I'm doing it for the love of doing it. So these no's don't really affect me that much. I think a lot of people hear one no and it destroys their whole world. The world is ending. It's
Right.
like, no, you get that. It just goes to show that you're not actually in love with what you're doing. You're too worried about the judgment of other people. And again, everybody's on their own journey, but that's just how I've always felt about it. It's like, I could get a million no's. At this point, I'm not stopping. I'm still going.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if that's a generational thing too, because like when we were growing up, like I think kids nowadays are almost programmed to believe like they really are special and they're entitled to a certain degree of like success and flattery and complimentary remarks. Whereas like when I grew up, it was like everyone's like, dude, you suck. Like that's just I come from a generation where it's like nobody's
Yeah.
rooting for you. You got a couple, you got like your little tribe of people, and you're literally uphill. And if something goes right, you're like, this must be my
Yeah.
lucky day. You know?
It's funny too, because
Yeah.
like I look back, like I said, I'm not like super old, but it's been 10 years since I was 18. But I look back 10 years ago and I'm like, I would probably punch myself in the face because I was a total idiot. Like I said a lot of stupid things. I had that entitlement, and the way I viewed like how things would play out for me musically too was not correct at all.
Yeah.
So like I look back at myself and
Right.
I'm like, wow, I've actually learned a lot and actually like taken these lessons and applied them at each step of the journey. And I just have to keep doing that because I think it's
Mm.
like the saying of like you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? Or you don't know
Right.
what is actually gonna how things are gonna actually play out until you jump in and start doing it. So yeah, I feel the same way though about myself. I'm like, man, I didn't get it at all. And not
Yeah.
just in music, just in life in general. Like you bump your head, you
Yeah.
gotta bump your head and learn lessons and like understand those things to kind of get to the next step of life and just like learn something from your mistakes is a big thing and just learn things from your original viewpoint and be willing to kind of shift and grow at each step. So
One of my favorite sayings is life is hard and expecting it to be easy makes it harder. And when I first heard that saying, I thought it was just like kind of one of those cliche statements. You miss every shot you don't take. Or like but it made so much sense to me because I'm starting to talk to these artists and they're like, I just don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do, man. It's like I have this music and I'm like, okay, how good is your music really? You know what I mean? Is it heads above everything else that's out there? Because that's what it takes to
yeah,
just get in the door. Are you better than like everybody here? Probably not. You're on par. Okay. How much are you posting? Well, I posted like 2-3 times this week. 2-3 times this week.
yeah,
You know, like the best artists, I'm seeing like 3 different videos and pieces of content a day, you know? So it's like, so they're looking for this solution, and the solution is rarely a secret that they're not doing. The solution is usually just
yeah,
volume. Yeah, your songs are good. You just don't
yeah,
have enough of them. Yeah, you're posting enough. Well, you're posting, yeah, but you're not posting enough.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Oh, 8 people came to my show. Yeah, how'd you promote it? I put the flyer on my story. One post on
yeah.
your stories to try to fill a room.
Yeah, and
That's
you got
wild.
to
You
think
know?
the way the algorithm has shifted. Most people aren't even seeing your stories anymore anyway. Even if you have a few thousand
Right.
followers, probably only 5%, if that, is going to actually see that story, and it's only up for 24 hours. So it's like that's not really that effective at the end of the day.
And I was using that as
Yeah,
an example, but you
yeah.
get the point. You know, like
And again,
yeah,
it's kind of like what I said, where you got to figure out your own strategy too. Because I think people just try to
right.
mimic what everybody else is doing, and it's like that's just not going to work for you. You got to actually figure out what it is that's going to work for you, and that's something you got to do every single day. And that's the amount of work that has to be put in. And it's just one of those things. There's no way around it. And like you said, everybody's trying to figure out a way around that work, and it's not possible.
Yeah,
Like it's just not possible.
right.
So you got to be willing to put in the work.
Yeah, it should be hard. You should be exhausted. You know what I mean? When you're about to give up and then you keep going, you're like, oh, this is why everybody doesn't make it because they give up at this spot. And then you just keep going and you like
Yep.
push through and you're exhausted and you're tired and you're like inches away from quitting. You're probably doing the
Yeah.
right thing.
Yeah. What's that little graphic where the guy's, you know what I'm talking about? He's in the rocks and he's got the pickaxe and the
Yeah.
diamonds are right on the other side of
Mhm.
the rock wall and he gives up.
Mhm. And he
Yeah.
quits just short of the
Yeah.
diamond
That's
or
what I
whatever.
always think
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yep.
absolutely. Yeah, and the people. Here's the thing with the promotion. Like I get that most artists that I'm aware of are generally fairly introverted, you know, and they would be happy just sitting in a room with a guitar and a computer and doing like a show in their hometown 10
Yeah.
times a year, but to be able to survive, I mean, obviously you have to promote and do. And the people that are doing really well, their promotion is on par creatively with their albums. You know what I mean? The people that have done really well, and I was like, oh, dude, these videos are awesome. It looks like it's like this perfect marriage of like they put the same amount of creativity into the promotion that they did in their album, and it doesn't even feel like promotion. It just feels like an extension of the
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
Does that make
And I
sense?
think a lot of that has to do with making it fun, making that process fun for yourself. Because I've had people ask me like how I'm able to post as much on social media. And the secret for me was just figuring out how to make it fun. Because if it always feels like that type of work, it's like, well, yeah, it might get a little bit annoying. But I have just as much fun making some social media content most of the time as I do making the music because I've just gotten such a hang of it where I'm like, I could make this video and I could make this graphic and do all these things to kind of help, spread the music and spread the podcast and all that stuff. So it's like, it should be fun too, just like making the music. It should be a fun thing to do. And if you need help, try to outsource that help. But don't just make every excuse in the book to be like, well, I can't do it because I hate it and yada, yada, yada. It's like, you're just making excuses because you're not willing to put in the work and figure out ways that you can make it fun at the end of the day.
Let's talk about your podcast too. You told me you had a podcast, and I check it out, and you have like a bajillion episodes. So you've obviously been grinding at this thing for a while. Proven knowledge, man. Give me like the elevator pitch, man. Like, what's the podcast?
So I've been doing the podcast since 2020, right after COVID. Well, it's kind of during COVID. It was like May of 2020 is where it kind of started. Me and my buddy, we founded that brand Proven Knowledge to kind of put out our music, and the whole idea of the brand is combining your logical and emotional sides together as a creative. Because everybody says, your heart and your mind are always at war with each other. And we said, well, what if they were in unison? That would be living your best life right there. And like that would be you as a creative at your best. So the logo is a brain and a heart combined. If you ever seen the logo, but the whole show, concept kind of came from me listening to a lot of podcasts during COVID. And I heard this one podcast by It's the Real. They're two brothers in New York who interview a lot of artists. They were doing like a COVID series where they interview people remotely on their phone because they were locked down in New York in their apartment. So they couldn't go anywhere. So the way that they got around it was, hey, let's call our friends and interview them on FaceTime. And I was like, that would be a really cool thing to do, especially since I'm not in a big city and I'm in a more small town. A lot of the artists I knew were in other parts of the country. So I kind of took that idea and ran with it. And then I ended up, reaching out to some of the people in my network and said, hey, would you want to be interviewed on this show? And then, from there, just kind of spread and the word spread. And I started reaching out, connecting with more people. And like you said, it's almost at 300 episodes now, which is pretty crazy over the last 5 years. So about to enter the 6th year of the podcast. But the whole point of the show in general is just to inspire other creatives listening through storytelling. So allowing, the creative to share their story, whether they're an artist or producer or engineer, or whatever they do. I mean, we're interviewing podcast producers at this point. We're interviewing some other people as well. Anybody in the creative field, and just showing them that there's different avenues to being involved in the music landscape. Because I think everybody still has the traditional, well, you got to blow up as an artist, you got to sell out world tours, you got to be Taylor Swift, all that stuff. And it's like there's so many different roles to play and so many ways that you could, be involved in this world. So I've tried to make it a point to interview a lot of different people, especially now. But that's really what it is, just inspire other people, help other people out. And if you hear somebody else's experience, you can relate that to your own and say, well, that's how this person handled it, their life. How should I handle it in mine and in my own journey? And I've learned so much just by being the host and being able to hear these stories. As you probably know, you learn from the guest a lot. So being able to like format questions to kind of get things out of the guest has been a really cool thing to do. And just being blessed to be able to have that many people that tell me, yeah, I want to be on your show. And now I have people that are booking me guests, which I never had at the beginning. At the beginning, it was just me reaching out to people. Now I got people sending me other guests and saying, hey, this artist wants to be on your show. It's crazy to see how it's grown and hopefully how it keeps growing. And I've just had a lot of doors open for me because of that show. It was never something I set out to do at the beginning. I had no idea I was going to be involved in podcasting at all. It was just a very natural thing and something I wanted to do to give back to people. Like I said, it kind of just took off from there. And by no means is it a huge show. It's got a nice little cult following, but I just love doing it. It's another thing I just really enjoy doing and something that I've kind of added to my creative repertoire. So it's been really cool.
It's cool, man. Well, if you like shows like this, make sure you check out Proven Knowledge with Anthony Church. After you check out Love's Music. Check out Love's Music, then check out Proven Knowledge in that order.
And we're getting Julian on the show soon as well. So that's going to be exciting as well.
Yeah. Cool, man. No, seriously, I hope you're wildly successful, man. I hope the show is everything you want it to be, man. I think it's cool. I checked out. It was like your either your last episode or the one before. But yeah, it's good. It's a solid show. Variety of guests is like all over the
Mhm.
place, which I love. You know, and you're a great interviewer, man. So I hope, but whatever you want to get out of the show,
Yeah,
I hope you get
I
it and more.
appreciate that.
So keep it up, man.
Thank you.
You're so methodical, like in the way you prepare, in the way you just move in business and in music. Do you have any bad habits? Is there anything you just wish you could kick, like
Yeah.
vices or just something you're like, "Ah, I gotta get better
Oh,
at
it's funny because I don't really have any vices. I'm kind of lucky to say that, and I'm actually totally unrelated. But my next instrumental album is called "Mural of a Sober Introvert." So it's all about my journey as a sober musician, which is going to be interesting. But I don't actually have a lot of vices at all, and like I said, that's not really a common thing in the music world. I don't think, which is very interesting. For me, I do have a lot of anxiety, and that's something that I try to, work on. And patience has been another big thing I've had to work on over the years. But I think just being able to go through the trial and error process kind of helps you be able to do that and learn patience because you won't get everything you want right off the bat. You have to really be able to plant those seeds and then watch them grow a year or two down the line. Sometimes it just goes down like that. There's other times where you might get the things that you want more in an immediate way. Maybe it'll only take a few weeks or a month. Um, but I think regardless, this any type of creative journey will teach you patience and just being able to be patient at learning things. I think when I started it out, I didn't really have a lot of patience when I was 18 or 19 years old. I had to really learn that. And I always look back and I'm like, it says a lot that I didn't give up early on because I made a lot of terrible beats for like 2 years straight, just bad music. None of it was in key. None of it sounded good. We always listened to my buddy's first mixtape that I produced for him, and I'm like, these beats are awful. Everything's out of key. Everything just sounds like garbage, and everything is 6 to 7 minutes. Like I'm talking long songs. I'm like, what was I thinking?
just long bad
Yeah,
songs."
long bad songs. I'm talking like I was putting piano solos in there for like 3 minutes. I'm like, what was I doing? But that's the thing. I could have done that and then given up. I could have just said, well, I'm terrible. Let me just give up, but I didn't do that. I stuck with it and I was like, well, the only way for me to actually get better is to keep putting in the work every day, practicing and just trying to get better, studying other producers, studying, what are key. Like, I don't read music. I still can't read music. When I was in high school, I was in choir. I failed all the music reading classes and courses that we did because I can't do it. I'm not good with scales. I'm not good with any of that. I'm just going straight off the ear and just trying to match keys. And I still do that to this day, but I've been able to practice and kind of learn, okay, how do I match keys? What is out of key? And just kind of do my best to learn these different things. And like I said, just listening to more music has been a big thing. And then just figuring out, well, does it actually sound good at the end? And another thing is making songs shorter. I don't make 6 minute songs anymore. I make, 2 to 3 minute beats and that's it. If a beat goes like 4 minutes, that's about the max you're getting out of me at this point. I'm not doing those long songs. But I think that's just kind of how I've always looked at it. Is I've been able to kind of practice that the skill of being patient and apply it to music, but try to apply it to other aspects of life as well.
That's awesome, man. You're talking about listening to more music, right? Who are some of the artists that kind of get you excited that you're impressed with
Yeah.
today?
So I feel like I'm listening to a lot more producers than artists at this point. Cause like I said, I'm trying to study what are these producers doing sound wise, but how are they building projects? Whether it's an instrumental project or if they're working with an artist, what are they doing? A lot of different producers. Apollo Brown is probably my favorite producer. And he's someone that I study a lot because he does.
How would we know him? Just so I can place a song on him.
I see. I don't know if a lot of people in the mainstream would probably know him. He's definitely more in the underground hip hop world, but
Got
he's
it.
worked with a
Okay.
lot of different underground hip hop artists, Planet Asia, OC, Stally, Shay Noir, like a lot of people that aren't in the mainstream of hip hop, but a lot of people in the underground would probably know. But he does those projects where he produces for full body of work for one artist, and then he does instrumental albums and he's done compilations, so he's kind of someone that I like looked at his blueprint of what he was doing, and I was like, that's how you do it right there. You kind of just build your
Mm.
own world. And he's talked a lot in his interviews about how he doesn't do placements a lot. Like very rarely is he, selling beats to people. A lot of the times he's taking those beats and actually contacting artists and saying, let's do an album. Let's record this. Let's do the marketing for it. Let's do everything 50-50, and then let's put it out there. And because of that, he's been
Cool.
able to build like a big name for himself as far as, the style of music that he does and the people that he does work with. Other people like Jansport J, he's another guy, does kind of a similar thing. I listen to The Alchemist, Hit Boy, E1 is a producer I've been listening to a lot lately. And I listen to a lot of musicians like Terrace Martin, Robert Glasper,
Nice.
all kind.
Howard Glasper's
Yeah, for
good.
sure,
Really
for
good.
sure. A lot of different people. Um, I mean, I couldn't even name off the top of my head all the people. I'm just thinking of people I've listened to even in the last like week or so, but a lot of different people.
So in the more immediate future, what would be the best way that we can support you? If we want to get a hold of you, contact you, and really kind of get behind the movement.
Yeah. So I'd say for social media, if you want to see like what I'm working on and things like that, definitely go to at Anthony Church Music. That's where I am primarily. I think X is Ant Church Music, which I'm not really on there that much, but pretty much everything I'm doing on social media, like the main stuff, is on that Instagram page. And then I would definitely recommend, if you're checking out solo work, to go to the Bandcamp page, anthonychurch.bandcamp.com. And that's actually where I'm going to be focusing a lot more in 2026 as far as doing some of these collab projects, and then my solo instrumental project. And then if I'm able to put this compilation album out next year, I'm going to kind of be focusing more on doing the early releases on Bandcamp and kind of having people go over there and check it out before I put it on like Spotify or Apple Music or anything. But if you want to hear any of my stuff, just go to your streaming platform and Anthony Church. Usually you'll see my face on there. If not, I think it's me and one other person that I've never been able to find again, because he only made music for like a year and he put it out there. And he also made instrumental stuff, which is kind of weird, but he hasn't put out anything in almost 10 years. So for the most part, you're going to see my stuff. It won't be
All
too
right,
hard to
good.
figure out. So yeah,
Right. Awesome, man. Well, Anthony, I want to thank you so much for making time to come on Love's Music. Like I said, the music's incredible. I challenge anybody. You have a project coming up, a long drive, just a lazy afternoon. Put on Leaves and Soil, and all your projects are good, but Leaves and Soil is in like, to me, on a whole other level, and it's fantastic. I've really enjoyed that one. I hope the podcast is successful. Thank you, and I hope 2026 is a huge year for you.
thank you very much, Julian. And like I said, I'm excited to have you on the show, on my show in a few weeks. And thank you again for this opportunity. I really do appreciate it. And it definitely means a lot. And thanks for listening to the music as well. So
Awesome, man. Thank you, man.
thank
It
you.
was my pleasure. To the rest of you, thank you so much for tuning into Love's Music. If you like what you heard today, certainly check out Anthony Church at all the sites that he gave you. And if you really enjoyed yourself, tell somebody who loves music. See you next Thursday.